Ever get the feeling like some dates just have, history written all over them?
Oh, absolutely.
Like you can practically feel the echoes of past events.
Yeah.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive on one of those dates, October 17th.
Okay.
And
All
it
right.
might not, be as instantly recognizable as, like, say, July 4th.
Right.
But trust me, it is packed with events that are as surprising as they are significant.
Yeah, it's got some interesting stuff.
We're talking those, that happened on the same day moments, and we've got a real doozy of a lineup for you today.
Okay.
Get this. We're starting with a notorious gangster's downfall. Then we're moving on to a beer flood that would put any Oktoberfest celebration to shame.
Wow.
And finally, we'll uncover a Cold War mystery involving, wait for it, postage stamps.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite a combination.
Right.
I'm intrigued.
So let's kick things off in 1931.
Okay.
You can practically hear the jazz music and the screech of tires in Chicago, the heart of the gangster era, and at the center of it all, Al Capone.
Well, of course.
Public enemy number one.
Big time.
But the story we're diving into today isn't about a shootout or a daring escape.
Oh.
It's about taxes.
Taxes? Really?
Yeah.
To bring down a crime lord?
That's right.
Wow.
This is a guy who seemingly ran the city, but it was the IRS that finally put him in a cell.
Interesting.
So walk me through this.
Sure.
Why was it so hard to nail Capone for, all the other stuff?
Well, you got to imagine trying to build a case against someone like Capone in the 1930s.
Okay.
Witnesses, they were terrified to testify.
Right.
Evidence vanished. And his network seemed untouchable.
Yeah.
It was incredibly difficult to get convictions for things like bootlegging or racketeering.
I bet.
They needed a new approach.
Okay.
Enter tax evasion. It
Interesting.
was a novel strategy at the time, and it played on a simple fact. Even criminals have to pay their taxes.
Especially when you're as flashy as Capone.
Oh, yeah.
Right. He wasn't exactly known for being low-key.
Not at all. Not at all.
So how'd they do it? How'd they get him on taxes?
Well, to get him on tax evasion, they didn't just have to prove he had money. They had to prove he earned that money illegally.
Oh, I see.
And that paper trail led straight back to his not-so-legal enterprises.
And I'm guessing that paper trail probably wasn't the neatest, most organized thing?
You got it. The feds, they spent years meticulously combing through financial records, receipts, interviewing anyone remotely connected to his operations.
Wow.
It was a massive, massive undertaking.
And it must have driven Capone crazy?
Oh, I can't even imagine.
This is a guy who allegedly tried to bribe the entire jury.
Oh, absolutely. The stories from that courtroom could fill a book.
And speaking of dramatic twists, the judge's decision to swap out the jury at the last minute.
Last minute.
Yeah, wow. Pure Hollywood.
What a power move by the prosecution.
Right. And it worked. When the guilty verdict came back, it sent shockwaves throughout the country. It was front-page news.
Yeah.
Think about what that signaled to other gangsters. If Capone wasn't untouchable, no one was.
That's a really good point.
It was a defining moment.
Yeah.
And not just because it put Capone behind bars, but because it fundamentally changed the game for both law enforcement and organized crime.
I see.
This case established tax evasion as a powerful tool, and it's one that's still used today to target criminal enterprises.
Wow. It's amazing to think that a case from the 1930s still has such a lasting impact.
But there's one more element to this story that still fascinates people today: the mystery of Capone's missing millions.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
To this day, people speculate about where he stashed his fortune.
It's got to be out there somewhere.
Right. Some say it's buried somewhere.
But-
Others think it's hidden in plain sight,
Oh, that's a good one.
like a real-life treasure hunt.
It really is.
Makes you wonder if someone somewhere might still stumble upon Capone's hidden fortune.
Yeah, you never know, right?
Right.
You never know. Ready to trade the glitz and glam of 1930 Chicago for something a little wetter.
Let's just say I hope you've got your pint glass ready.
Because we're about to dive headfirst into a beer flood of epic proportions.
No.
Fasten your seatbelts, because we're rewinding the clock to 1814 London.
All right.
So we're in 1814 London, about to experience a beer flood. Okay,
Yeah.
you've got to set the scene for me here.
All right, so picture this.
Okay.
You're just, walking through the streets of London. It's a crisp October afternoon.
Okay.
Maybe you're doing a little window shopping, or maybe you're, heading to the pub to grab a pint.
Right.
Suddenly, there's this rumbling sound that shakes the ground.
Okay, is this like an earthquake?
No, it's not an earthquake. It's a tidal wave. But get this, it's a tidal wave of beer.
You're kidding me, a tidal wave of beer.
A tsunami of beer.
Now that's what I call a pub crawl gone wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously, how much beer are we talking about here? We are talking about over 323,000 gallons of porter.
323,000.
That's enough to fill, get this, over 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
Oh, my goodness.
This happened at the Muse Horseshoe Brewery.
Okay.
It was one of London's largest breweries back then. And one of their massive wooden vats, which was holding the equivalent of, get this, over 1 million pints.
Over 1 million pints.
Just burst.
What would cause something like that to happen?
Well, it seems the vat, it was faulty.
Okay.
And when it went, it triggered this domino effect, taking out other vats in the process.
Oh, no.
This wasn't just a leak. This was like a beer quake.
I can't even begin to imagine the cleanup effort after that. Sticky streets for weeks.
Yeah. And, it wasn't just messy.
No.
It turned tragic.
Really?
8 people actually lost their lives that day.
Oh, no. I was picturing, comical chaos, but people actually died in this flood.
It is a grim irony, isn't it?
Yeah.
Most of the victims were actually killed by collapsing buildings or just the sheer force of that beer wave.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine being swept away by that much liquid.
Yeah.
Definitely not the kind of free beer situation anyone wants to be a part of.
Not at all.
So what happened afterward? I mean, did anyone take responsibility for this beer apocalypse?
Well, lawsuits followed, of course.
Yeah.
But, and here's the astonishing part.
Yeah.
The brewery, they actually argued that the flood was an act of God.
An act of God.
An act of God. A completely unavoidable accident, they said.
That's quite a defense for a faulty vat. Did it work?
Believe it or not, it did.
Really?
The brewery dodged responsibility, but the incident, it did spark a much-needed conversation about,
Okay.
building codes and industrial safety standards in London.
Well, at least there's that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to think that somebody somewhere learned a valuable lesson about beer containment that day.
I think we all did.
So we've gone from gangsters to beer floods.
Right. Quite the day.
What else could this date possibly have in store for us?
Okay, so get ready for some international intrigue. Because we're about to uncover a story of how a seemingly ordinary postage stamp got caught up in Cold War espionage.
Stamps and spies. This has to be one of the most unexpected combinations in history.
It really is, and it reminds us even the most everyday objects can have a hidden life, a story waiting to be uncovered.
Okay, you've definitely got my attention.
We're talking Queen Elizabeth II, a groundbreaking technological advancement and a mystery that's still debated today.
Intrigue, technology, and a royal connection. Let's talk stamps.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about Queen Elizabeth II, Cold War espionage, and postage stamps.
Right.
I gotta be honest, I'm having a hard time picturing how this all fits together.
Okay, well, picture this. It's 1956.
Okay.
The UK unveils a brand new stamp featuring the newly crowned queen.
Okay.
Seems pretty standard, right?
Yeah, I mean, new monarch, new stamp makes sense.
But here's where things get interesting.
Okay.
Turn that stamp over.
Okay.
And you'll notice a series of faint graphite lines.
Graphite lines. Like someone took a pencil to the back of a royal stamp.
Not just any pencil markings, no. These were very precisely placed. Absolutely intentional.
Okay.
You see, those lines, they were the key to a groundbreaking new technology. The world's first automated mail sorting system.
Wait a minute, are you saying those little lines revolutionized the postal service?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Remember, this is 1956. Before this, every single letter had to be sorted by hand.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I can only imagine that must have been.
A logistical nightmare, especially with the ever-growing volume of mail.
Right. So how did these graphite lines how did they work?
Think of them like a code that machines could read.
Okay.
The placement of the lines told the machines exactly where to sort each letter,
Oh, that's really cool.
making the whole process exponentially faster and more efficient.
That's brilliant. But you mentioned espionage earlier.
Right.
How did a mail sorting system get caught up in the Cold War?
Well, imagine the strategic advantage of being able to process information,
Yeah.
mail in this case, but more quickly than your rivals.
That's right.
During the Cold War, every technological edge mattered,
Oh, yeah.
and the UK's new system was seen as a major coup.
I bet. So basically everyone wanted a piece of this graphite line action.
You got it. There were rumors of attempts to steal the technology,
Okay.
to reverse engineer those stamps, unlock the secret, It was a race to control the future of communication.
It really is amazing how much importance these stamps took on.
And to add another layer of intrigue to this whole thing,
Okay.
some of those early Queen Elizabeth II stamps, the ones with the graphite lines,
Okay.
they simply vanished.
Vanished. What happened? Were they stolen? Did they end up in some collector's vault? What?
Those are the million-dollar questions.
Right.
Some believe it was the work of rival intelligence agencies.
Okay.
Others suspect opportunistic thieves. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's a mystery that's never been solved.
Wow. It's amazing to think that something as seemingly insignificant as a poster stamp could be at the center of such intrigue and technological advancement.
You know, it just goes to show that history often hides in plain sight.
Yeah, it really does.
And speaking of hidden connections, we've uncovered 3 very different stories from October 17th.
We have, and I have to say I had no idea.
Right.
A gangster brought down by taxes, a city flooded with beer, and a postage stamp that revolutionized communication and sparked international intrigue.
I mean, who knew that October 17th was such a wild day in history?
It's been a wild ride, for sure.
It has.
So what's the big takeaway here? What do you think is the most important thing for our listener to remember from all of this?
That's a great question, I think. For me, it's that even the smallest actions or the most unexpected events, they can have this ripple effect that extends far beyond their initial impact.
That's a really good point.
You know, for all we know, something that's happening today, that seems insignificant.
Right.
Might be the subject of a deep dive 100 years from now.
Absolutely. You never know. Well, that being said, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive into October 17th.
I agree.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those calendars handy.
You never know.
You never know what hidden histories you might uncover.
That's right, you never know.
Smash that like button.
Please subscribe. Thanks for tuning in to
Historian Kid podcast channel.
Catchy. We hope you enjoyed this dive into history. If you did, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories from the past. Your support helps us bring history to life every day. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next episode. What lesser-known historical figures do you think deserve more attention? Get people talking in the comments.